Let's be seated. Want to start out, let's be seated. Want to start out with some candidate recognitions. I believe we have at least a couple of candidates in the House. Okay, I'm looking. Please stand if you're a candidate for any office. Okay. Yes, yes, sir.
I'm Mike Renner, running for State House District 82.
My name is Jeff Renner, running for House District 100, Northwest Oklahoma City. The reason I'm running is to fight things like state health care exchange that my opponent voted for last session.
Now, before you sit down, tell us who holds your district currently, because numbers are hard to remember.
Oh, sorry. Lee Saul holds my district.
Okay.
And Guy Lipkin holds mine.
Okay. And I believe Ed Moore is running for Senate. Is he here?
He's sitting over here. He just stepped away from the mark.
Oh, well. Ed Moore is also running for Senate. There is one more candidate, and that would be myself. I am running for National Committee Man, and that election will be May 12th at the Republican Convention in Norman at the Embassy Suites Convention Center. I encourage y'all to ask for your vote, but I do want to ask for something else. I've been working my best to get to as many county conventions as possible. Been all the way to the farthest edge of the Panhandle, Cimarron County, been all the way down to the southern edge, all over. But there are so many county conventions this Saturday that I can't possibly cover them all. I'm going to two, my wife is going to two, Ryan's going to two. I need some helpers to go to some of the county conventions on my behalf. And so if you would be willing to travel the state a little bit, if you believe in me and want me to win, I'm asking for some assistance. Please come and tell me after the meeting today, and I'll set you up with a county or two to work if you would. I think other volunteers will stick to one county. So I appreciate that. Ed Moore has come back in. Ed, do you want to announce your candidacy? I saw you come in. Oh, there you are. Yes, sir.
Excuse me. I'm running for Oklahoma State Senate District 17. That's Eastern Oklahoma County. And old Shawnee maps on the back of the newspaper we put out. I cover your prayers and wouldn't mind your support.
And who holds that seat currently?
Currently it's Charlie Laster, and he is not seeking re-election. It's an open seat.
Excellent. All right. All right. Well, then we have some announcements, and I'd like to start with there's a bureaucrat in the House who wants to say something. My wife, Denise Engle, Deputy Insurance Commissioner, she has a little bit of an announcement I think you'll enjoy. Use the mic.
Sure.
Hold it up close.
Yeah, Commissioner John Doak, our insurance commissioner, asked if I would share some information with you. We just got back from the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, which have meetings a couple of times a year. This one was recently in New Orleans. And I want you to know I am so proud of our commissioner for standing up on his principles and standing for Oklahoma and Oklahoma values. And although it really made a lot of the other folks, mostly unelected folks, very uncomfortable. I heard one comment later, he doesn't know what position he's put us in, so you're going to love this. Resolution urging all state insurance commissioners to protect religious liberties in health care, sponsored by Commissioner John D. Doak of Oklahoma. Whereas religious liberty is a fundamental right of all and does not depend on any government decision to grant it, and whereas just societies recognize and respect its free exercise, and whereas the free exercise of religion extends beyond the freedom of worship, but also forbids government from forcing people or groups to violate their most deeply held religious convictions, and from interfering in the internal affairs of religious organizations, and whereas the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, NAIC, serves as the standard-setting and regulatory support organization representing all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and 5 U.S. territories, and whereas a key component of the NAIC's mission is to protect the public interest. We, the members of the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, therefore resolve that the NAIC cannot support any legislative action that would deny citizens constitutionally protected religious rights. I have a copy of this resolution. The resolution and the press release that follows, and also I would like to recognize Deputy Commissioner Randy Brogdon, who's one of my fellow.
Now, wait a minute. Surely something as innocuous and simply stated as this would pass with flying colors, right?
No, they were running for the woodworks, I can tell you that. Nobody wanted to be on record, everybody was ducking and covering, because these are folks that are trying to implement OCPAC or Obamacare line by line and precept by precept, and they're trying to shove it into being codified, and we're standing against it.
We failed. We've got a good insurance commissioner, and the one line that just really strikes out to me here, that religious liberty is a fundamental right of all and does not depend on any government decision to grant it. Our religious liberties are not given to us by government, they're given to us by God. Amen. And we have somebody standing up. I'm just so proud. Pastor Steve Kern, you have an announcement?
Yeah, well, hurry now. I want to get to Alvey real quick, I know. Hi, I'm Steve Kern, pastor of Olivet Baptist Church. This coming Sunday evening at 6 o'clock, I have a special guest. Glen Howard's going to be there. He's going to be bringing his map. How big is that thing?
15 to 30.
15 feet by 30. We're going to lay it out in our dining hall, and he's going to walk all over it and just give us all kinds of history about Israel, what's gone in the past, what's going on now. I hope you'll come. Also on March the 15th, a week from today, at 7 o'clock at Oklahoma City Community College, I'm going to be in a debate with a representative from Americans United for Separation Church and State about intelligent design. And so I hope that you can come. It will be in the Student Union building. That's next Thursday night, 7 o'clock at OCCC. Hope you'll come. I need the support.
You said the union?
Ryan Wills.
The union, Student Union building.
This is Ryan Wells, by the way. He's campaign manager for my campaign, but he's also doing a number of other things.
Right. Well, we've had a real exciting time traveling the state of Oklahoma, and one thing I've learned is to always have my camera on me, because I never know when something's going to happen. And I had the privilege of attending the Oklahoma County GOP convention this last Saturday, where I think anybody that was there, you were able to witness really an unprecedented event for the convention and for the state of Oklahoma, and an awesome blow for the cause of liberty here in the United States. There were some delegates that were voted and chosen as delegates at their precinct meetings, and whenever they showed up at the county convention, they were denied the opportunity to be a delegate. Their names were actually removed from the list. There may be some technicalities that took place, but nevertheless, a motion was announced on the floor to amend the credentials report to add these rejects back to the list of delegates. And it passed by a very narrow margin. However, the cool thing is that their names were added. Liberty did win that day, and I caught the whole thing on video. And the reason it's so exciting is because I posted the video on YouTube, and it went viral immediately. Since Sunday morning, it's had, as of right now, 33,000 views by people all over the nation. Tons of positive comments and things on the video as well. So if you would like to check that video out, the best way to find it would be to go to youtube.com/user/FAMOUS Famous Smith, FAMOUSSMIFF, or you can also just go to the keyword search, and if you type in Ron Paul, Oklahoma, it's the very first thing that comes up. So I encourage you to check it out.
Well, I was pleased that the convention determined itself to be inclusive, and that was certainly good. I don't live in that county. I live in Canadian County, as you know. As we normally do, the day after an election, we kind of recap the election a little bit. And so we're going to spend a few minutes talking about what happened yesterday. And obviously everybody's heard the news, and so you know literally what happened, but you may not know the effect of what happened. And let me start out with what happened with me at the Canadian County Election Board, because I think it's somewhat reflective of what happened statewide. See, we open up, each of the election board members, we actually physically open up all the absentee ballots. Now we do it in a way that we never know whose ballot is which, but when there's more than one ballot in an envelope, we do tend to know which, what happened in those two ballots. And that happened quite a bit because Mustang had a couple of bond issues at the same time as we had presidential race. And so there would be a ballot for those in the Mustang area, there'd be a ballot for president and a ballot on how they voted on the bond issue. And so while I didn't know who voted how, it was very clear that people who voted for particular candidates for president voted a particular way on bond issues. And that became very obvious. And so I thought I'd share that with you a little bit. Among those who voted for Ron Paul for president, anybody want to guess how they voted on the city bond issues? No. They voted no. Unanimously. All of the absentee ballots that were for Ron Paul voted no on the bond issues when they were in the city of Mustang area. Okay, well let's talk about those who voted for Newt Gingrich for president. How do you suppose they voted on the bond issues? They actually, almost to a man, voted yes on the bond issues. Okay, well let's talk about Rick Santorum. Those who voted for Rick Santorum for president, how do you suppose they voted on the bond issues? Actually, almost all of them voted no on the bond issues. They want limited government. Okay, now let's talk about those who voted for Mitt Romney. Those who voted for Mitt Romney, how do you suppose they voted on the two bond issues? Well, you won't be too surprised to find out that when they voted for Mitt Romney, a pretty good number of them voted for one bond issue and against the other bond issue. Does that reflect anything that you might think of? I thought it a little funny. A little flip-flopping going on even there. So, okay. This election we had yesterday was really quite, for Oklahoma, anticlimactic. Everybody kind of won something, everybody kind of lost something. We don't have, after Super Tuesday, a clear winner for who's going to be the presidential nominee. Everybody's kind of all, oh, okay, what does this mean? Ron Paul clearly lost. He didn't get any delegates assigned to him. He did not get to the magic 15%. And I heard a lot of complaints about Charlie's comments in the most recent newsletter saying that Ron Paul voters should switch over and vote for Rick Santorum. And some of them may have. Ron Paul did exceed in the polling, what was polled. He was polling at 8%. He ended up with about 10%. That's 25% over what polling was showing. Okay, that's not much, but that also is far less than he was exceeding in polling in other states. So, because young people are tending to vote for Ron Paul and they don't have landline phones, so they don't get polled by the pollsters. So he was pretty consistently doing better than improving his numbers by 25%, but he didn't in Oklahoma. This was one of his worst states. And, why is that? What was going on? And some people have suggested that maybe it was due to some rather dramatic personalities involved in his campaign in this state, whereas those same personalities weren't involved in other states, and that's a possibility. But what you can't get past is the reality that Ron Paul supporters are going to be the largest single contingent at the district and state conventions. And that's a reality that has to be dealt with. Oklahoma really has a two-tier system. We have the public vote for president, and then we have effectively a caucus system when it comes to who it is becomes delegates to the national convention. And whether those delegates have to vote for a particular man or woman, if there was one still running, for president, they would still impact the platform and the rules and other matters of party business. And so they're going to be the single largest contingent. There's no getting past that reality. That won't change. The question is how many of them will stay with it and go on through to the state convention, but even if a lot of them drop off, they're going to be the single largest contingent, while being the single smallest candidate in the public vote. That's a reality we're going to have to deal with. Santorum won, but did he really? He got more votes than anybody else, but he only gets one more delegate than Gingrich, or one more delegate than Romney. And that's kind of a disheartening feeling for a lot of people who supported Santorum. Like, why on earth did he win and didn't get very much? And, you know, Charlie's comment that maybe the Ron Paul people want to go ahead and vote for Santorum suggests that, well, if they had voted for Santorum, would Santorum have gotten more delegates? And actually, if every single vote for Ron Paul had gone to Santorum, it would not have changed the Oklahoma delegate count one bit, because Santorum would have still been less than 50%. And so that just wouldn't have happened. Maybe it did to some degree, but it wouldn't have been a majority. And therefore, it wouldn't have changed how that delegate count would have come out. Well, Gingrich also lost, but he ends up with only one less delegate than Santorum. Romney also lost, but still only one less delegate than Santorum. And we're kind of in this quandary as Oklahoma Republicans. We don't have a standard bearer. And we have to realize that the nominating campaign is for us over. Let's face it, let's be real. Let's acknowledge that this whole nomination process is now in somebody else's hands. Other states, going forward. You look at it, and a lot of the pundits are saying Romney's going to get it. It's going to happen. He won Ohio, and that was the big prize. And maybe, maybe not. In a minute. But we have to just face reality. That nominating process is now outside of our hands. It is. There's nothing we can do to make our guy win. But we can do things in Oklahoma to build our party and build it on ideals. And I think that's what we need to emphasize. You know, this whole consternation that we've had in our party, divvying up over these candidates, you know, these are kind of the times that try men's souls. Nobody's the clear winner. Even though the winner is Santorum, he's not the clear winner. And even though he won Oklahoma, it's still kind of questionable whether or not he can win it nationwide. So we need to be realizing this and just dig down and settle in on the fact that it's kind of moving on. A lot of Ron Paul supporters will talk about it's the message, not the man. Good comment. It's time for them to prove it. It's time for them to stick to the message of limited government, of smaller government, of lower taxation, of lower spending. Those messages of Ron Paul, you know what? If you say it's the message and not the man, then prove it. Stay in the fight, stay with it, and move the party to that limited government level. And you know, that applies to all of us. It applies for all the candidates and all the people who supported the various candidates. Stick with it, stay in there, and push the message, not the man. You know, at the Oklahoma County Convention, Bunny Chambers, who was our former National Committee woman, came up to me kind of complaining about, you know, they're fighting over individuals and names and candidate names instead of issues. And there's a degree to which that is true. But that has to be over now. Now we have to push issues. And it's so much better when, as Republicans, we push those conservative issues. I would suggest that in Oklahoma, there really needs to be, to a degree, somewhat of a Rick Santorum-Ron Paul coalition. Rick Santorum won the most in the popular votes, but Ron Paul's people will be the largest contingent of the state convention. And so we need to begin to work together on the ideas that they have in common. I mean, oh, well, they don't get along so well. What would such a coalition look like? Let me suggest that a coalition like that would look exactly like OCPAC. We voted, and just over half supported Ron Paul, and just under half supported Rick Santorum. We get along, don't we? We do. We do on common issues. And I would suggest that's what we need to do, and that's what we need in Oklahoma, is that kind of a coalition on those common issues. Failed presidential campaigns are always a great source in the Republican Party for new activists. And, you know, we saw it happen back to back to Reagan's first campaign for president, back to Goldwater's campaign, back to Pat Robertson's campaign. Failed presidential campaigns always bring people into the party. And we need to welcome that happening and welcome them on their issues and get them involved. My overall message is get in, work it, stay in, be involved, stay with your issues, stand fast, but at this point, let's drop personality. That's really my message, and I think what we need to learn from what happened yesterday. Yes, sir?
I just got a number of comments to make. On the ballot that I went to vote yesterday, I saw on the Democratic list a familiar name to me because I met the man, but his name is Randall Terry. He used to run a radio station called Randall Terry Live, and he was Operation Rescue. Super pro-life guy.
Yes.
And so that would take away from Obama. I just want to put that in there. And then also, and Ross Perot ran, as a separate party or whatever he ran as, with Clinton against Bush. He was a critical factor, and he was nowhere, I don't think, anywhere near Ron Paul. I just want the criticality of Ron Paul is very important in this election. I just want to state that. And then a lot of people voted for Romney because he's got the money. And because he got the money, people said, well, they don't want to have the front runner, not able to beat Obama. And a lot of people would fear. I know a number that did it because of that and said he's got the money and then we're going to give it to him because we don't want Obama to get in there. So I wanted to put those out there for a picture.
Yeah, certainly. On the Democrat primary, Randall Terry, who actually ran for Congress in Jacksonville, Florida before he moved up to West Virginia, and prior to that, obviously being in the Wichita, Kansas area with Operation Rescue. Very pro-life, used to be Republican, running as a Democrat. He's won delegates, as did the other gentleman from Midwest City, won some delegates. So the Democrat Party in Oklahoma clearly has evidence to show that Obama's not popular among them. I mean, I would actually suggest that if every Republican stayed home in November, Oklahoma would still be a red state, with the independents and Democrats voting for whoever the Republican is. Now, it's not going to happen, and I don't want that to happen, but we are in a situation where he is not popular in the state. But, you mentioned Perot, and I don't believe that in Oklahoma there's going to be a significant third-party way. I think we're going to have in Oklahoma a pretty clear ballot of it's going to be whoever the Republican nominee is against whoever the Democrat nominee is, and the Democrat nominee is going to be Barack Obama, and we don't want him to be president. But there's not a lot we can do in Oklahoma to make that happen because we're going to do the only thing it is, we're going to vote Republican in November. That's going to happen. There's no getting beyond that. The question now is, how do we impact everything else? How do we impact the platform? How do we impact how the party goes forward? How do we impact local races? How do we impact and get a sheriff who's a Republican here, and a good one in Oklahoma County, Darryl Sorrells? How do we change things that we can change? And those are the areas we can change. And I think what happened yesterday leaves a lot of unsettled things, but let's be settled. That race is out of our hands. Let's emphasize what we can emphasize. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Just one last thing. I would like to make a statement that Rick Santorum did say in one of the debates that he thinks that America should be one with Israel. And I think that, and put my hand on that so wholeheartedly.
Where's that in the Constitution?
He was curious what that means, and I think that we need to get to our speaker and find out what exactly that means, because I'm curious too what exactly that means. And we'll let him speak. And I know we kind of took some time up kind of talking about the election and settling that out, and that's what we always do. But we want to go to our speaker, and then I want to make sure we reserve some time for questions. I know you're speaking other places at greater length, and so they'll want to go and hear you in those other places. But I'm going to ask Glen Howard to come up and introduce Avi Lipkin.
Thank you so much. This past week has been quite exciting. We've gone to a lot of churches. He's made a lot of presentations, impacted a lot of people. Of course, every time you hear about Avi, you talk about him being formerly with the Prime Minister's Office of Israel, formerly spokesperson for the Israeli Defense Force, but he always says Everything I know is what my wife tells me. We've heard about Rachel because she is the lady who listens to the Arabic broadcast, radio and TV, translates it into Hebrew for the Israeli government, and Rachel is here in person. Rachel, will you please stand? I would suggest you, if you go on my website, seniorworldradio.com, you can listen to an hour's interview with both of them, and Rachel gets her share of time talking about things significant to her. So I think you'll enjoy it. Anytime, Senior World Radio. Avi also has a knack for getting attention. Did anybody see Monday in the Daily Oklahoman? There's a picture of him in Santorum out there at the state capitol. The photographer was flirting with Avi. And so, they got the opportunity to take a picture that was on page 8. A good picture of Daily Oklahoma. Tonight, I do want to mention, though, before Avi comes, that Avi is going to be speaking tonight for Paul Blair up at the Fairview Baptist Church in Edmond on, Center Road and Danforth, I believe it is. Now, today, CARE Oklahoma released a press statement suggesting that the kind of bigotry and hysteria that's going on up there is serving a growing course of anti-Muslim sentiment that unfortunately is spreading in the heartland, and they're calling for protest against Avi tonight. Interestingly enough, they have tied him in with Fairview Baptist Church and known anti-Muslim speakers such as General William Boykin and also Bridget Gabriel, who has given tens of thousands of dollars to conduct robocalls in Oklahoma. So he is with some pretty important people. Now, the service begins tonight at 6:45. However, Paul Blair asked me, if you come, please come early, because there is a feeling that there may be a large number of protesters who are going to try to fill the seats to occupy the building, so he cannot speak. So Paul Blair has asked you, if you're coming tonight, please get there 6:15, no later than 6:30, so you can fill as many of the seats as possible. Before he speaks, he'll begin speaking at 6:45. There'll be almost no preliminaries. Also, they're expecting some of the television stations to be out covering this presentation tonight. So it's going to be a fun night. But indeed, it is my privilege to present to you Avi Lipkin, who many of you have heard. Please welcome my friend.
If you'll go ahead and step in here, and I'll kind of give you a 5-minute signal so we can make sure to have some questions as well. And just enjoy it.
What is our time frame?
We want about 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Including questions.
Okay, so the good news is I got about 26 hours of teaching to share with you all, and we're not doing it now. So that's the good news and the bad news. I'm very challenged in 30 minutes to get out the really important things. I don't know if I should do the ABCs or the XYZs, and I think you guys are postgraduates, so we're going to do the XYZs. I've been very, very blessed the last 8 days, 9 days here, and for security reasons, I won't say Roberta's last name, but Roberta and Lendl have been very wonderful hosts every time I'm here in Oklahoma City, and I did some good TV and radio with J.R. Church, Prophecy in the News, and Noah Hutchings, Southwest Radio Church, and of course, Senior World with Pastor Glen. And Pastor Glen has done a masterful job in booking me morning, day, and night for the last 8, 9 days. And it's been kind of tiring, but when you're serving the Lord, nothing is tiring. And it's a blessing to be able to serve the Lord and serve the greatest country on the face of the earth, the United States of America. You know, when a few minutes ago, we were all saying the Pledge of Allegiance, it said one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. One nation under God. And you know, I was born in the U.S., I was raised with that, I love it. I moved to Israel 44 years ago, and I began to understand that there's another system out there that doesn't exactly agree with one nation under God with the liberty individual for all. Tomorrow night, God willing, Rachel and I will be in Springfield, Missouri. It's an Assembly of God. It's called the E-Club of Dr. David Allen Lewis. I don't know how many of you have heard of Dr. David Allen Lewis. Rest in peace. His widow got ordained, continues the ministry. And I'm a Jew who goes to Assemblies of God, Baptist churches, non-denominational, Catholics, Lutherans, Episcopals, Presbyterians, and I've been in all these churches, and there are pastors and there are denominations which have had me, even though maybe the national organizations were not in favor. Anyway, every 6 months I speak in Springfield, Missouri, the buckle of the Bible Belt, and 2 years ago, this is not yesterday, this was 2 years ago I spoke there, and every month they have a speaker, and they said to me, you know, the speaker a month ago was an Assembly of God pastor by the name of Don Jones. How many people know the name Pastor Don Jones, Assemblies of God? I mean, this is a great country. It's a big country, and so many times you don't know what's going on in the next state. And Missouri is the next state. And by the way, what I'm going to share with you now is available on a CD. If you call Ramona Lewis, and anybody wants, I'll give them the telephone number, she'll send it to you for $5. But this is not me. This is Pastor Don Jones speaking. And he said, in his speech 2 years ago in a month, he said that after the earthquake in Haiti, he went to his orphanage in Haiti, and he met with a senior UN official. And the senior UN official told him that President Obama had told this senior UN official that America would be a Muslim country by the year 2016. In other words, by the 8th year of his presidency, by the last year of his second term, God forbid. America will be a Muslim country. President Obama said in his inaugural address, America today is a Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Hindu country. Now, I was born in this great country, the United States of America. I remember in 49, when I was born, well, not when I was born in 49, but I remember in the 50s and the 60s, and when I moved to Israel, there were two nations, there were two peoples, which are really one people of the book, the Jews and the Christians. And we Jews were number 2. We were 6 million. Everybody else was a Christian. And something changed. I moved to Israel. When I came back, something changed. And this change is going to accelerate in the coming days, months, and years. There is going to be an inundation, a tsunami of Islamic immigration to America. And it was not Obama who started it. It was different administrations in Washington, forgive me for saying it, who were bribed, senior people in control of the floodgates in Washington, D.C., and this country has been systematically invaded by millions of Muslims over the last 10, 20 years. I have so many things to share, but half an hour is a very short time, so I have to be hard-punching and get straight to the point. You know, once I was at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, returning my rent-a-car, and I gave the keys, I had to run, catch my flight. I gave the keys to the young guy there who ran the car company. And all of a sudden he says to me, and I'm in a rush, he says to me, you know, America's the greatest country on the face of the earth. I said, yeah, I know that. Why do you say that? He said, well, I'm from Indonesia. I'm a Muslim. And I was like a FedEx UPS delivery boy in Indonesia, and I was at the American Embassy there. And one day the American Embassy official, when I was there, he points his finger at me and says, hey, you want to go to America? There's a flight tomorrow. No passport, no visa, just be there. Bring your family. He brought his family. Isn't America the greatest country on the face of the earth? And I have so many testimonies as I travel across this country. I'm kind of like Maxwell Smart, Agent 86. Everywhere I go, I'm stumbling onto information about buses coming up from Mexico carrying Muslims into this country, about charter jet aircraft flying into this country every day, bringing in thousands and thousands of Muslims. Pastor Glen interviewed Mike LeMay from Appleton, Wisconsin. I think it's from Appleton, it was Green Bay, the show. And I've been on Michael LeMay's radio show, a Christian radio show, many times. They're bringing in tremendous amounts of Muslims into Green Bay, Wisconsin. And so Mike LeMay, you know, a very concerned Christian, says, well, what about some of these Christian refugees? I don't know if you know this, but there are millions of Christian refugees that need to be brought into the United States of America. But the federal government says no Christians, only Muslims. And the entire administration today is being thoroughly infiltrated by Muslims. This country is in a very dangerous, precarious situation. So I'm not going to get involved with the different race here, with the Republicans. I was very honored to shake hands with Santoro. I would shake hands with all the candidates, and I think with all the candidates. This battle in November is such a tough battle, you guys don't have a clue how difficult it's going to be. The Republicans have to wake up and be ready for this battle. I'm going to explain to you how I understand Obama's plan is to get reelected. So that you guys, I'm like a boot camp sergeant kicking all of you in the butt. You don't know how tough this battle is going to be. When Obama became president, January 2009, I don't know if you remember this, Wall Street was at 6,000. Within a year and a half, it was 12,000. It's now up to 13,000. I predict Wall Street will be up to 15 or 18,000 by November to make Obama look good. How do you do that? Saudi cash. I mean, if you're a Christian, it says in the New Testament, nothing's impossible in the Lord. Well, there are a lot of people in Washington who believe nothing's impossible with Saudi cash. Everybody's complaining. I listen to Fox News. I mean, that's the only station really I can watch, other than the Weather Channel. What's good about the Weather Channel? That's God at work. There's no editorial. Just watch the clouds and the tornadoes and so on. That's God. Fox News, with all due respect, gasoline is going to be $4. Gasoline is going to be $5. Isn't Obama terrible? And I have news for you. I predict that by November 2012, gasoline will be $2.50 a gallon. And Obama's going to look just so good. I want to tell you something. I don't know if you know this or not, but today is the Jewish holiday of Purim. How many people knew that? Today is the Jewish holiday of Purim. And actually, we Skyped our son about 2 hours ago, and he was in synagogue, and they were reading the Scroll of Esther. So it was a very emotional thing for us. So anyway, you know that the hero in the holiday of Purim is Esther, Queen Esther. So I want to tell you about an American Queen Esther who saved Israel. Her name was Monica Lewinsky. Bill Clinton, former President Bill Clinton, was applying such pressure to Israel, and when the Monica Lewinsky affair broke, he was now too busy to apply pressure on Netanyahu, and she saved Israel. And Bill Clinton had other things on his mind now. He had to avoid going to jail. He should have gone to jail. He lied, he was obstructing justice, but politically correct people can get away with anything. Not so. And what did he do? He went to Saudi. The first thing that he did after Monica Lewinsky, he went to Saudi. He was there 3 days, and the price of oil dropped from $18 a barrel, which is the cost of producing it, was break even. The price dropped to $8 a barrel. How many people remember the $8 a barrel? I mean, I'm a traveling preacher. In January '99, I drove from New York to Florida. I suffer for Christ in Florida in the winter. And I filled up with gas 69 cents a gallon in Savannah. How many people remember 69 cents a gallon? And I spent a lot of time with my Christian friends and people out there in Odessa, Midland, and Texas. Do you know how many good Christian oil men went bankrupt because of this trick? But the American people were madly in love with President Clinton. And the Senate overturned the impeachment. And he did not go to jail. He should have gone to jail. And as soon as the Senate overturned the impeachment, the price of the barrel of oil went from $8 to $32 a barrel. So I predict the same is going to happen before the November elections. A month, 2 months before, there's going to be a miracle. It's going to be a super miracle because in the summer, everybody likes to drive. Prices for gas go up in the summer. This summer, because of President Obama, the prices are going to drop. And by election time, this guy's going to be so popular. I've been in churches And, you know, by the way, I love the churches and I love all the people. There's some good Christian people come up to me afterwards and they say, hey, listen, if I keep my job and gasoline goes down to $2.50 a gallon, I'm voting Obama. There are people who say those things. Okay. So Fox News is constantly harping on $4 to $5 a gallon. What's Fox News going to do when when President Obama brings down the price of oil? Of course, after he gets elected, it'll go back up to $4 or $5 a gallon. That's something else. America is suffering from a housing slump. What does Fox News say? This Bill Clinton, I keep saying Bill Clinton, I love this Clinton, I got this thing about him. He's funny, you know, I can make a living because of what he's talking about him. I got some jokes that I won't tell. President Obama's not dealing with the economy. He's failing. He got a housing slump. Okay, now let's stop with the housing slump. We're going to come back in a second. You all heard of the Arab Spring. And really the thrust of what I'm saying should be the Arab Spring. Because this is the reason you're going to be receiving 100 million Muslims here in the next 5 years. How many people heard of Agenda 21? Agenda 21? Now you know where the Muslims are going to be housed when they come in. But we're going to get to that later. By the way, with Agenda 21, is there enough room to house 100 million Muslims in this country? Yeah. By the way, Pastor Don Jones said that America would be a Muslim country by 2016, according to President Obama. My wife Rachel picks it up in Arabic all the time. So, my work is basically constantly cross-referencing between what my wife picks up in Arabic and what I pick up in the churches and in my travels here in America. Okay. I don't mean to pick on Rachel, but I'm going to say something very important. The first day that I met my wife, January 14th, 1970, I'm good with dates, and she tells me that she and her family, when they were kicked out of Egypt, penniless, her Christian girlfriends and neighbors and schoolmates said to her, we're sorry to see you Jews leaving because you're the last Jews of Egypt and you're leaving. And after they finished with the Saturday people, who did they go after? The Sunday people, the Christians. And that was in 1969. So there are no more Saturday people in Egypt. You still have some Sunday people, the Coptic Christians. Today, the situation with the so-called moderate Muslim Brotherhood is that the Coptic Christians either convert to Islam or die or leave. So you know, I'll give you one guess what's going to happen. They're going to leave. And within a very short time, there's going to be such an exodus of Christians from Egypt that there will be no more Christians in Egypt. And we have to thank the State Department for supporting the moderate Muslim Brotherhood. For the Holocaust that's going to destroy the Christians of Egypt. There will be no more Christians in Egypt. Okay, give you one wild guess. Where are these Christians going to come to? America. And so when you get 3, 4, 5, 10 million Egyptian Christians coming here, by the way, these Egyptian Christians, they're educated, they're hardworking, they're industrious, and they got money. So let's say 5 million Christians come here in the next 6 to 9 months or a year. They're going to need homes. It's the end of the housing slump. The American economy takes off. Who gets the credit? Obama. And so this housing slump will be over. And America's population will grow by quite a few millions of Christians who are going to be fleeing from the Middle East. In addition to all the Muslims who are already here. By the way, does anyone here have a wild guess? How many Muslims are there in America? By the way, you got 5 million, 6 million Jews. How many Muslims do you have in America? 5 million. Okay, let's go through the numbers. America had another genius Democratic president by the name of Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter takes your ally number 1, the Shah of Iran, your friend number 1 and only basically in the Islamic world, and Jimmy Carter, by the way, this is my message tonight also. Jimmy Carter says, oh, I don't like the Shah, well, I don't have the Georgia accent, you know. I don't like the Shah of Iran because he's a dictator. We Americans don't like dictators. He's guilty of human rights violations. So we got to get rid of him, even though he's ally number one. And you know, there is this man, a saint, man of God. Everybody loves him. He's going to lead a united democratic coalition in Iran. His name is Ayatollah Khomeini. That's what Jimmy Carter said. And here's one of the craziest things. We all serve the same God. Ayatollah Khomeini is a religious man, and I, Jimmy Carter, I'm a religious man, and Allah and God are the same. How many people have heard that Allah and God are the same? How many people believe that Allah and God are the same? I don't see one hand, praise God. And these people from CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations, one of their descriptions of me is someone who preaches that Allah is Satan, Lucifer, the devil himself. So of course I should be banned from speaking the truth here in America. Because there's no doubt that a God who hates the Jews and wants them dead on Saturday, and hates the Christians, wants them dead on Sunday, and hates the Hindus and the Buddhists and the blacks, and wants them dead any day, and then when the Muslims kill everyone else, then they kill each other in the name of Allah. That's not God. That's Satan. And Islam is a religion of peace when everybody's dead. By the way, I have to express my appreciation for all of you. Because you're having a man here speaking before you who has a criminal record. I have a 3-year jail sentence in Switzerland. How many people know that I have a 3-year jail sentence in Switzerland? Why do I have a 3-year jail sentence in Switzerland? The law that convicted me, by the way, is the law that Hillary Clinton and President Obama are bringing here now. That if you speak against another religion, you're going to go to jail. Okay. Got 5 minutes. I'm going to try and wrap this up in a few sentences. Because I spoke about the minarets and the noise pollution of the minarets, and that Allah is Satan and Islam is not a religion, it is a criminal psychosis worse than Nazism. That's my message. Come tonight, you'll hear it. I just hope there are a lot of TV stations there. Why will America receive 100 million Muslims in the next 5 years? Can you imagine 100 million Muslims living here in America? You see, because when the Christians flee from Egypt, what happens to the Egyptian economy? It goes down. When the Muslim Brotherhood will kill any Christian or non-Muslim who is sent by an international corporation to Egypt, do you know of any international corporations that will send their people to Egypt? No one. No one will invest in Egypt. When no international corporation invests in Egypt, that economy crashes. When the Egyptian economy crashes, the people starve. When the people starve, they leave. Where do they go? America. And I recommend to all of you, we don't have time. It's 3 minutes. I don't have 3 minutes. Go to Saudi plant in your YouTube when you go home. Look up Saudi plant, P-L-A-N-T. By the way, courtesy of Council on American Islamic Relations. They repeat it. This was made by a Southern Baptist pastor, Carl Gallups, in Pensacola, where my wife picked up a broadcast where Obama swore he's a Muslim, his father's a Muslim, stepfather's a Muslim, raised as a Muslim, in a mosque and in a madrasa until age 11. You remember the Catholic Jesuit priest, Francis Xavier, who said, give me a child until 10 and I'll make him a man. President Obama was made a Muslim in that mosque by age 11. Muslim man. And the only people in the world who do not know he's a Muslim are the American people. Middle East, any Jew, Christian, or Muslim? Yeah, he's a Muslim. Of course he's a Muslim. The American people, I don't want to say are blind, but the American people are not aware of what we're aware in Israel and the Middle East. Ask any Muslim. Yeah, he's a Muslim. And he swore he's going to destroy Israel. President Obama swore he's going to destroy Israel. He said to the Egyptian people, have patience. I will show the Muslim world what I'm going to do to Israel. Watch the YouTube. You know why I'm here? You understand now why I'm here today? Now let me ask you a concluding question. Is Israel your Israel? Yes. Your Israel. Is your Jerusalem? Yes. And is Messiah your Messiah? Yes. Thank you very much. God bless America and God save America.
Did you get to hear Netanyahu's speech at APAC Monday night?
No, I have to confess to the sin of preaching in the church.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, it seems to me
I was in
that,
Pastor Doug's church Monday night.
it seems to me that basically his speech was a preparation for saying, we are going to go into Iran whether the U.S.
Yes.
agrees with it or not. That
Yes.
seems to me to be the message that he was communicating Monday night.
Well, you know, Israel has done this kind of thing twice already. We did this with Saddam Hussein in 1981, with Iraq, and Israel was condemned. And it turns out, I think Israel did the American troops a great favor, because in 1981 in Desert Storm, I don't want to think what would have happened if Saddam Hussein had that nuclear plant and bombed the American troops in Kuwait with a nuclear weapon, which he would have done if he had it. And of course, Israel went into the Syrian nuclear plant. It was all hidden. I mean, in the intelligence world, you have the information, you have to make a decision, and you act. Iran is developing weapons that threaten not only Israel, but Saudi Arabia, all the oil wells, all the oil fields. And I'll say one last thing, for those of you who wonder why Obama, God forbid, is going to get reelected. If and when Israel does attack, you know that Israel is going to be counterattacked with missiles. Missiles from Lebanon by the Hezbollah, missiles from Syria, missiles from Iran, missiles from Gaza. And you know what? The Jews in America and the Christian evangelicals are going to come to Obama and say, you've got to save Israel. And he's going to come in galloping to the rescue of Israel after Israel gets sufficiently bombed. And then the whole world is going to prostrate President Obama and say, we're going to vote for this guy in November because he's Messiah. He saved Israel. I don't understand that the cards are stacked up against you Republicans. And you have to see through this. This guy has promised to terminate the Shiite threat of Iran, which he'll do before the elections, and the Jewish threat after the elections.
Bob?
Mr. Lipkin, you mentioned the idea of the manipulation of the price of oil here.
Yes.
In a previous radio address, you mentioned the idea of the globalists having that kind of power. I'm kind of curious, what is your take of the Western globalist influence on the nation of Israel and its own government?
Okay, that's a very hard question for me to answer because, you know, I specialize in Islam, and I've heard what you're saying. I've heard that Netanyahu is a globalist, and I heard he's, you know, one world government, and I've heard many things about Netanyahu, but the point I think about Netanyahu is I don't see anyone better than him at this moment as a leader of Israel. I will add one last point. You asked me who were the candidates, please stand up. I'm a candidate for Israel's next Knesset elections. I'm forming a Judeo-Christian political party based on the ideologies that made America great 200 years ago, 300 years ago. The party will be a political party of Jewish and Christian Israeli citizens who will be my candidates. We're the only party in Israel that is giving Christians a vote, a representative in the Knesset. And by the way, one last point I want to say, the days are going to come, and this is in my books and in my teachings. As the Muslim numbers increase in America, and Canada, and Mexico, and Europe, when they get the orders for jihad, they're going to murder Christians and Jews and Christians in the streets of America. Especially Christians who are married to Jews, or Christian pastors, or churches, or messianic groups that love Israel. Anyone who's connected with Israel. The Muslims know who they are. And so we will be seeing 5 to 10 million people leave this country and move to Israel. And I have my new book on the table about the final victory of Judeo-Christianity over Islam and the banning of Islam. When we Israelis are forced, by the one world government, by the way, to take Mecca and Medina, which we will do. Thank you very much.
Hang on a second. Still a couple more minutes for
Yeah.
questions, and I want to go ahead and ask. It was brought up a little earlier, and I don't think you can speak for a candidate, for somebody else.
I speak for myself as a candidate.
Speak for yourself. But Rick Santorum did say that there shouldn't be any separation between the United States and Israel at all.
Right.
And, you know, there's parts of that, I can imagine ways that would mean that sound good, and I can think of ways that would mean that sound not so good. I mean, I don't want Israel to become the 51st state. I don't want them to be suffocated.
Israel doesn't want to be the first 50.
Yeah, exactly.
We might agree that you be the second state of Israel.
But exactly, when we get some detail on what you think the relationship between Israel and the United States ought to be, and so we can clearly delineate what that means, what that relationship really should be.
Okay, well, firstly, this is the greatest country on earth. I call America, United States of America, God's chosen country. And Israel is God's chosen nation. Okay? Now, I am a Jew. I'm going to get into trouble. If Jewish people see this tape, I'm going to get into trouble, but I'm proud. You ever hear the book of Romans 9 to 11? doesn't it say that the people who were Gentiles and had no hope are now grafted into the tree of Israel?
Yes, yes.
And so I look at the United States and Israel as the olive tree. The Jews are the roots, and the Christians are the branches. How many people know those verses? It's in chapters 9 to 11 in Romans. And my opinion is anybody who attacks that tree is attacking the branches and the roots. And Islam is a system that kills the Jew on Saturday and Christians on Sunday. And therefore, I don't want to talk about Israel being the 51st state, or the United States being the second state of Israel, but I feel that there is a kinship, there is a bond, and there is a unity that Jews and Christians stand for exactly the same things. And any attack on Israel is an attack on America, and any attack on America is an attack on Israel. And I'm totally dedicated to a Christian revival in America to ensure that America will remain number one. Because when America loses its Christianity, it will lose its preeminence in the world.
Amen.
To be more specific to the governmental relationship, I'm told that there's actually not a mutual defense treaty between Israel and the United States.
Correct.
I would like to see one. Would you like to see an actual treaty between the United States and Israel?
I think Israel would be ready to come to the defense of the United States, yes.
Well, should we?
This is a difficult question because I don't want to go into things that happened over the last 50, 60 years, but there are promises that were made to Israel that were not kept by the United States of America. And so the Israeli approach is that we will work with America because of our common interests and our common faith, but the only people who can defend Israel are the Israelis. And by the way, we have never asked for American soldiers to fight for Israel. We do our own fighting. The only thing we ask is that you supply us with what we need. America, I know that there are some people who are complaining that America spends too much Israel to support Israel. I think it's about $3 billion a year, $4 billion. I think America spends about $50 billion a year to maintain its troops in Korea. America spends so much money to maintain its bases and troops all over the world. And I think America investing in Israel is a very good bargain for America.
We spend even more supporting Israel's enemies.
That's also true. By the way, there's a joke. Which country is the most difficult client for American-produced military aircraft? Israel. Because Israel says, well, we want this, and we want that, and we want this. They have a whole list of changes to be made in the aircraft. And who's the best purchaser of American military aircraft? The Saudis. They say, whatever the Israelis want, we want 100 more.
Any other questions?
I've got a question.
Go for it.
Would it be to Israel's advantage to not receive funds from the U.S. just because there's always the connection, the strings attached, that puts pressure on you, that you have a really good economy there, and you don't really need the money? This is my understanding.
This is a very excellent question, a very excellent point. And let me just give a very quick history. When Israel was forced a third time to withdraw from Sinai, and Israel said, okay, you want us to, the United States, you want us to withdraw from Sinai? We have to rebuild 2 air bases in the Negev, and we needed these $3 billion in the U.S. Our GDP at that time was $20 billion a year. So the $3 billion made a big difference. Today our GDP is $200 billion a year, which still is less than General Motors, by the way. But the $3 billion from the U.S., which, by the way, must be spent in America in U.S. military industries. And so really it's more of a boon to your economy and to your people to give us those $3 billion, in addition to the fact that we test these weapons, we use them in battle, and our battle experience enriches the American military. So there are pros and cons to those $3 billion. I personally would forego them, if we were asked to, I will say another thing also, I don't know if you know this or not, but our chairman of Bank of Israel, Stanley Fisher, he's an American, by the way. And every time America said, please, Israel, buy up U.S. dollars, because the U.S. dollar was sagging in the world markets, Israel would buy up U.S. dollars to help. I mean, it's not that we're an economic power, but we, within our limits, we did whatever we could to help the American economy as we could. I will say again, Israel looks up to America as its role model. And we're allies. We might be unofficially allies, but we're allies. And I just hope that God will protect Israel and God will protect America, because the enemies of Israel and the enemies of America are exactly the same enemies.
Well,
There's one hand over there.
yeah, but we are out of time now.
All
So
yours.
thank you very much. And Steve, don't leave. I need to talk to you before we leave. We can't take any more questions. We're out of time. But thank you very much. And do hear him tonight.
Yeah, come tonight to Paul Blair's church.
Come early.